Welcome to Ephemera Files with Tommy. Today we are going to do a flip through of my journal that I made for the challenge sponsored by DearJulieJulie, and I will link her YouTube below. This challenge for May was the May Mystery Mayhem Junk Journal Challenge. And this was different than any other challenge I have ever done, because each day we would grab however we did it. Some people did sticks and some people did pieces of paper. I made like a little card deck with all the different pieces on it. And our challenge was to each day choose one or more elements and make that element. I shuffled my cards and then I would draw one. And that would be the element that I would work on. And you can imagine how hard it would be to make a signature ties dangle when you have nothing else to go on. And this was actually my third or fourth draw. So I had to figure out a way to make signature ties dangles without a signature yet. Wasn't easy, but it was a lot of fun. So thank you, Julie. I appreciate you stretching my boundaries and forcing me to be more creative. Thank you so much. So let's get to it. This is a big journal. It is about 6 3/4 by, I think it was 10.5 and 2.5 inches thick. She's fat and fluffy. Look at all this goodness. Some of it's a little out of order. Let's get that down there where it belongs. So we're going to get to it. First things first, one of our things that we drew was a fancy closure. And I think this is a pretty fancy closure. I used a set of curtains that I bought on clearance. I actually bought several packs of these curtains because it was $2 for the pack. Now these were curtains that I wouldn't hang in my home, most likely, but they yielded a lot of fabric, a lot of lace, different bits and bobs, and I still have not used up the first pack that I opened, and I still have other packs, and I used a lot of it in here. So I believe this is voile. I don't know if I'm saying it right. V-O-I-L-E from that curtain. This is some yarn. Now I don't know how to knit or crochet very well. And I obviously couldn't figure out how to use this in crocheting or knitting, but I think it's perfect for this. I love the ombre and the weave and the pattern. And then we have some seam binding here, which I washed and then pressed, and it's beautiful. Now, along with that, I have a petal pebble. I got these on clearance, I think at Hobby Lobby, and you'll see a few of them throughout. And it is on a little floral applique, and it is glued onto the seam binding on top of the yarn, on top of the voile, and then on the back of all of that, just to give it a little bit more strength, I have a piece of the placemat. Now you probably will never see it, but it's there just in case. This closure will allow for the book to get fatter or skinnier. It's adjustable. You decide how you want it to look. So let's take that off, move it to the side over here. I have my little mini journal here that was part of the challenge, and we'll just use that to hold our binder. This was a placemat, and it determined the size of the book, really, because I didn't want to lose any more of it than I absolutely had to. So I cut off, there was a fabric that extended out this way. I cut that off and I used it. That's where this came from. And I kept the original brown seam binding that was on there. I separated the two layers. They were both flannel, and well, this is flannel backed and the other layer was flannel. And I love how it looked. Just the placemat. Isn't that pretty? Now, we have bits of the lace curtain that I used on the front. This one is loose and has a little dangle. This one down here is loose. There is stitching all around. This is some denim fabric to keep the spine strong. This is I call it a triple double cross. I don't know if it's original, if somebody else has done it. I know I had to do a lot of math to figure it out, and I hadn't seen it before. And I will do a tutorial on that. I have been requested to do that. All right, so let's get into this. Because it is a fat book, I'm going to use this card game box to help balance it out as we go through. This inside cover is my dry napkin applique. Yes, dry napkin applique. This cover is a double layer of heavy duty file folders. And then I just covered it up. So it's still flexible, but it's pretty strong. I got this little roll, and I don't even know what it is. It feels kind of like maybe linen, but it acts like burlap. And I got it on clearance, no label or anything, and I used a whole roll in this, the entire thing. And so you will see it everywhere. All right, each of our signatures, I used this washi for continuity. They have different pages, different designs, but they all have this washi tape to help to bring it all together. This is a strip of that denim. We had messy thread, which was one of the elements. Now let's go ahead and open it up. Oh, some of my threads have tangled themselves. Nice. Or not. Here we have a little dangle with a button and a bead and a little jewelry finding. This is a print of a handmade paper that had rose petals in it, and then these are flowers that I dried and put onto the platen, I believe it's called, of the copier. Put the handmade paper on top of it and copied it onto cardstock, and I think it turned out beautifully. I really like it. I'll be doing that again. There's a lot of journaling space. Here we have a doily that is folded in half and a little plaque that says, "Encourage your hopes, not your fears." This was coffee dyed paper, and then I added some stenciling to it along with some doilies. There's a little dangle hanging off the lace. I love the accidental matching there. I did not do that on purpose. That was a happy accident. On the back of the coffee dyed paper, we have a burlap flower. And there's pieces of tissue applique all the way through here, along with fabric appliques and little crocheted bits and pieces all the way through. This is a background paper I made using one of those 4-way stamps that has 4 parts, and it has directions to use yellow with one stamp, magenta with another stamp, cyan, I don't know if I'm saying that right, which is a blue with the other stamp, and I believe the fourth one was a black. And I used it elsewhere in here on a journaling card, but then I also thought I could use each of those stamps and make a very pretty background, and I think that it worked. We have lined writing paper, unlined writing paper, all kinds of journaling spots. This is a double pocket, which is actually a quadruple pocket because it's the same on the other side of the insert right there. I have stenciled back here. I have some vintage steno paper, a journaling card that has been stenciled and reverse stenciled. This is a doily that I made into a pocket. It has this little set of journaling spot there. It is a large pocket because it also has this note paper, this dangle here, and it matches this vintage pin. And I know this is vintage because I have had it for 20 years and I know it was old when I got it. Just how old it is, I don't know. But I do know it's vintage. And then here's the other side of that big pocket. You can see it holds a lot of stuff, or big stuff, whichever. Coffee dyed paper. We have another pocket here with some journaling cards. This is my fluffy washi, which was one of the elements, and I will link to my tutorial on how I made that. I have a book page in here from a gardening book. I love how these flowers match my washi up here. Again, another happy accident along with this. It just all fell together. I kind of think that you don't go wrong with flowers because in the wild, they all grow together and they don't care what color they are or which one's tall and which one's short. Everything goes together. So I like that. I like that. Everything just kind of fell together with this, with all of my worry about how am I going to do this? This is backwards. I can't do this without this. It worked. There's some more journaling cards in that pocket. A little side tuck here with another journaling card that has some seam binding ruffled and stitched on, stitched all the way around the card. The other side of that big pocket with a giant journaling card. You got room there, room there, room there. You could even write on the lines on the front if you wish. Sometimes you just need to go big. The other side of that double pocket, here is my paper ruffle, which is one of the elements, along with some stamping and some lined paper, and it has lined paper on the back. This is a reverse stencil. When I was stenciling this part back here, when I was finished with that part, I took a mister and I sprayed the stencil, and then I turned the stencil over onto paper, and it left this lovely reverse image. I really like that. Another paper ruffle with my fluffy washi. Here is my flat paper clip on a curly, it's all curlied there. It's got some yarn and a button. I think it's beautiful. Here we have another two elements. One was a pull tab, space to write in there. And then this was my handmade washi, using medical tape and ink and stamps. And I can do a tutorial on that, although I'm sure that there are others on YouTube if you look up homemade washi. But I will share. Here's the other side of that paper. Here is a triple pocket. These are seed packets that I cut along the banner, removed the seeds. I put the seeds into these little brown packets. And this is a sticker that I cut down so it would fit in there. And then the back is really smooth. It has a nice texture, so you also have some journaling there after you remove the sticker. Whoops, I put it in there upside down, which I guess really wouldn't matter, but I would know. And so you get a perennial mix, you get marigolds, and you get cosmos. More lace. I love all the lace. Here's some more of that trim. I put it between each of the signatures. Since we are to the center, I can remove the card game, I believe. Maybe. Maybe I'll scoot my mini journal over there. Here is the washi tape that I'm using on all of the signatures. This is a piece of that curtain. Here's some messy thread, which is one of the elements. Here is a little pocket. I got this from a birthday card that I received. I just cut the picture out and saved it. Got one of those Target dollar spot envelopes. I didn't put anything in it or on it. You can use it as you wish. Just tucks right in there. Here's the original handmade paper with the petals. And over here we have a little fluffy safety pin with lace on it. Here are the dried flowers that I put onto the copy paper. And I put them into a little clear bag. It would be a shaker pocket, but it might be kind of hard to shake the whole book. So they're just pretty, and they'll move around a little bit. Here's a journaling card that goes in that pocket. And the vines look lovely behind those flowers. Like that effect a lot. Here is some stenciling that I did. And later on, there's another sheet where I did the reverse stenciling by spraying with the mister and putting it onto another sheet of paper. Here are two tags that have pockets with little tags inside of them. Some lined paper, which was one of the elements, although I'm pretty sure it would be very difficult to write on there. These pieces here were from an old book spine that fell apart when I was trying to take some pages out. And I think they give a lovely little architectural feel to the tags. More of that fabric and some lace and a brad with a little tab. Here is the 4-way stamp. I think that I'm going to experiment with some different colors and see what happens. It says cultivate kindness. And it fits right up under there. Here's another one of those petal pebbles, like is on the fancy closure for the front of the book. There's not a lot of coffee stained paper in here because by the time I got done with the various elements, I didn't have room for much more. This is a junk mail element along with some messy thread. There's some lined writing paper, and there is more tucked in here. This is stamping with the stamp pads. I had a little square pad, and I had a little leaf-shaped pad, and I just used that to make a background for my applique. On the other side of the junk mail, you can see this is where the window is. I had a lovely calendar page, and I cut part of it off, tucked it down in there, and made the flap out of the part that was long. Added some lace applique and some beads and stamping and washi tape. Here's a glassine bag with a little journaling card in it. We have some paper flowers, which was an element, and a stamp, and some of the homemade washi, and the cute little button right there. I love that. Here is a top tuck, and I've got some ledger paper tucked up in there. This is a stationery set, the envelope, the paper, and an extra sheet of paper tucked in right there. Here's another one of the pages from the book, along with a not so flat paper clip because it has the big fluffy flower on the top with the button. I really like how this accidentally happened. I love how the zinnias and marigolds in this picture go along with my paper flowers over here in this picture. And this was another of the elements, the paper pocket. Here's that dry napkin applique on one of the Target envelopes. A little bit of twine, a little bit of washi tape. I will do a tutorial on this pocket. This center pocket is quite interesting. Not so hard to make, but it looks really intense. But first, this was the front of a birthday card. I did some stenciling on it. A lot of journaling space back there. And going into this belly band, which was another element. I'll set this to the side over here and this to the side over here while I talk about this. This was two 12 by 12 sheets of paper that, by doing some folding, some fancy folding, and just a little bit of cutting, created a tuck, a pocket, and a top tuck, except for I glued that down, so it's not a top tuck anymore, and two belly bands on the outside. I think it's gorgeous. Somebody came to my door, so we are going to continue with this. This is two 12 by 12 sheets of paper, and with some folding and I believe one cut, maybe two, we created all of that. So when we get to it, I will share a tutorial. Here is one with a paper ruffle. It's actually a pattern paper. Journaling spot tucks right in there. This was one of the mini challenges, I believe. I have messy thread, I have a guest check, I have my handmade washi, I have metal and a dangle, and this is the dry napkin applique, and then I have stamping on the back so that you can journal there. It looks busy and beautiful. Here was another one of the little challenges. It was a guest check. I have two guest checks. I don't believe this was a mini challenge. I believe this was an element. I have two guest checks. They are both stamped and hand colored with this lovely bunch of roses. I have lace along the edge, and then in the middle I have a journaling card. Nice little tuck spot there. So there's lots of writing space on this particular piece because you can write on the front, you can write on the back, and you got the journaling card in the middle, and it goes right in that belly band. Here was one of the elements, was a pull tab. And so this came in a set. There was another one just like this, and then there was one that was larger. So I believe that it was an old table setting, doily-ish type thing. Even though it's not a doily, it was a table linen of some sort, I believe. And here is my journaling with a little bit of stamp. That pull tab was this particular element. Here is more of that book page. There's the other side of the stationery, coffee paper. And now I think that I need to, no, not yet. I was going to bolster it up, but I don't think I need to yet. This is an altered guest check that was one of the mini challenges. I have to take this bead dangle off with my fancy curled paper clip. We'll set that over here so I don't lose it. The guest check with a digital download, I believe, from RF123 or 123RF, which is a site I belong to. This is two little pieces of applique, writing space on the back. Part of the challenge was a belly band and a use of thread or yarn, I believe, and then stamping or stenciling. And then it's also on a piece of junk mail, which I made into a pocket to hold this. This was one of the mini challenges, but I don't recall which one it was. It may have been something doing with the book page or the use of metal. Anyway, it turned out very pretty. This poem is from Robert Louis Stevenson's A Child's book of garden verses, book of children's garden verses. I have a little metal brad here, little lace applique. There's 3 layers there, some washi tape. This fluffy stuff is a dyed dryer sheet. A friend of mine made a batch of these for me, and I have used them and used them. And I am so glad that she told me how to do it, because I have used all of it now. On the back is some writing space. This is vintage sheet music. I believe it's from a 1951 student's book, music lesson book. And it tucks right into that pocket. And then our paper clip holds it all together safely with that little dangle, or a big dangle actually. 2 little journaling cards that popped out when I took the paper clip off. One of the elements was a lace pocket, so here it is with a journaling card. And one of the Target Dollar Spot envelopes that I added washi tape to. I have a picture of, this is salvia. It was my granny's favorite flower. She always had it. So I have this and a little tag on there with some washi, and you can write on the back. I combined many elements of things that many different grandmas and grandmothers and grannies and other women in my life who loved flowers and loved gardening. And as I was making it, I was thinking of them. So I really enjoyed making this journal, even if it was a challenge and a struggle at times. Okay, I think it is time to get the card game out so that I can prop that side up. Alrighty. In this pocket we have avocado dyed paper. This was my first time making it, and these were 2 of the best looking cards. A lot of them looked like they had been used to clean up a murder scene, and I was not sure how I felt about that. So I didn't throw them away. I have them. Who knows, maybe I'll make a murder mystery junk journal and use them in there. Here's the other side of the stenciling page, along with this is a different type of dangle than I've ever done. It's attached to this little tiny paper clip, which is holding this journaling card. We have some more writing space, the other part of the handmade paper. Here we have junk mail elements. These are punched from an envelope. This is a peony. Peonies are one of my favorites. They were one of my grandma's favorites. And I backed it with a baby wipe. This is a used baby wipe. I keep them in a little jar so that when I clean up inks or watercolors or anything like that, I can use this. They go further because it doesn't dry out. When it gets unusable, you can toss it or you can dry it if it's pretty. I don't know if I'll keep this one. It's not looking so lovely. But you can stretch the edges and ruffle it up. And I think it's pretty. It's soft, adds a little extra texture and character. Plenty of journaling space on the back here. This tucks into this corner. If I can get my fingernail in there, maybe. There we go. That tucks right in there, and then I have 2 little tabs here that will help to hold it in place. Just like that. And here is the 3rd signature. This is some paper ribbon. It's like the paper ribbon that comes twisted on a roll, and you can use it to make bows. You can use it to tie things. This was already untwisted with this lovely flower print, and I made a pocket that holds these 2 tags with some washi stickers on them. And here is the washi that we're using again, for the continuity between the signatures. Here is more of that curtain. It goes everywhere. I love it. This was another one of the mini challenges. And again, I don't recall what I think that this was a pull tab. I'm pretty sure that was a pull tab. Goes right into this envelope that has the handmade washi on it. I fussy cut this from a Bo Bunny package. And then on the back we have a paper flower, which was another one of the elements. I made that paper flower out of doilies. And it just tucks right along there. And then I have this fluffy fancy yarn on top of the tag. I have a little pocket here with two little journaling spots. Journaling cards. Let's see what is going on. There we go. This is another one of the elements that I made before I had anything to put it on. So here we go. It is a book page pocket, and it has homemade washi. Two tags that have stamping on them and a little bit of lace. And I used up all that brown lace. I'm going to have to see if I can find some more because I really, really like it. Cannot tell where the pocket is from this angle. There we go. And then on the back, we have a guest check with stamping and some book page and stenciling and some writing space. A whole bunch of stuff all together. This really stretched me, not knowing what I was going to be doing with things or where they were going. Here's another little metal element, a little heart on that paper clip that holds that right into that tiny little pocket. This was another element. It was an altered playing card. And I used some lace to join these cards together, so we actually have a little journaling booklet. And I just have the paper clip through the back page. Maybe I have it through the back page. There we go. More of the dry napkin applique on there. A couple of more journaling cards. This is a lace pocket. And this journaling card with geraniums. Again, another grandmother's favorite. A little button on there to add a little sparkle. Some little bits and bobs. More journaling space. More of that handmade washi. I have this little paper clip on here. Whoops. That goes in the pocket. To clip this to the side of the paper so that the button is actually out and it doesn't cause so much more bulk in there. I have a little button bling here with some more applique. Here I have a tiny little pocket with two tiny little tags. We have washi with a quote, "Many things grow in the garden that were never sowed there." This is the reverse image of the stenciling that I did with the mister and then putting it on the paper. It's very subtle, but I really like it. This was another challenging part of the challenge. We had to use metal, and I believe we had to use thread, and I used this yarn as my thread, fabric, and then on the flip side we have a double pocket. This is junk mail that I made into a journaling card, whoops, with some stamping. I covered it with a piece of pattern paper to give it a little more subtle look. There's a journaling card here, and this is an old library card, and it's for a music album called The Walled-In Garden. I don't know that it has anything to do with gardening except for the name, but I like it. I stamped it And it makes a nice little journaling card. And then this bulldog clip up here has a little dangle with a couple of flowers on it, and that holds it onto this page. And I am all cattywampus here. Let me adjust. Goodness gracious. Okay. There we go. And I don't need that under there anymore because I have the box under here. There. That's better. This lace is sewn on by hand through this fabric washi, and then I left this little tail down here for interest. Oh, I forgot to show you my signature dangles, but it's not too late because they hang way down there. More of that book with the lovely images of the gardens. Here's a top tuck. That was one of the elements, and a little journaling card there. We've got some stamping and some washi. This is fastened to the page, but when you come back here and lift the flap, you have a journaling card in there. This envelope was coffee dyed or tea dyed with doilies on it. Made a lovely impression. A little bit of lace up there at the top. These are some flowers that I dried. I put a layer of matte gel medium on the card. I put the flowers down, and I covered each layer with more of the matte gel medium until I got to the top. I have let it dry. It has been like this for about 2 weeks. It's a little flexible. You don't have to get all crazy with it, but you don't have to be super careful because it is sealed in there. And it hasn't changed the way it looks in the 2 weeks that it's been done. So a giant journaling card in this little bitty pocket. Here is another way to use up your papers that have borders, but you don't want to make a 12 by 6 book. And this way you don't lose any of the design. And it creates nice little belly bands and 2 little shallow pockets. One of our elements was a messy thread. I made a flower out of it, put a brad through it, and attached it to this journaling card. Put some stamps on the back and stamped on the back with some washi added. And then on this side I have 2 journaling cards. This is an image from a catalog. I covered with the second layer from a napkin, the part that you separate off, just to tone down the shininess. And then I added this fabric flower and this little word strip, find joy in the ordinary. And it's easier to tuck that one up from the bottom because of this flower. Whoops. Back here I have a paper bag. There's nothing in it. You can put something in it yourself, along with the little pocket down here. This is the back side of one of the elements. I used a doily here. There are 3 layers of this thesaurus page that I've stamped on in the middle, and it's backing up this fussy cut image. This is from either 23andMe or MyHeritage, their DNA testing sites. This is from the packaging. So I fussy cut around it, and it made a little tuck spot with this pull tab, which the pull tab is actually a piece of my bookbinding twine. Tucks right in there. There was a hole in the middle of the picture, so I took this doily and put it on there and then backed it with this green doily. I've got this little dangle down here. I love the way that looks. Got a little collage going on up here with some fabric, some lace, some paper. Here's more of the book pages. More of the fluffy washi. Another Target tag that has the dry napkin applique going on with some twine. It's fastened on with this little binder clip that has a little dangle on it. More washi. Fluffy washi. This is more of that second generation from the stencil. This was another element, was the use of fabric. I had a tablecloth that has several of these that are hand embroidered along the side. I cut one out and applied it to these oval tags. And I put a little flower eyelet in it and tied it with the ribbon and twine. And then this is another book pocket page, which was also one of the elements. It's from two different books. This is from the gardening book, and this is from the thesaurus, and I stamped on the back of it. Have lace all around the edges of it. Over here is another little short pocket from that same book. Little journaling card with the fluffy washi. Some of the colors are repeated over here. This is some of the fabric that was cut off the edge of the placemat. More of that curtain. A little brad with a blue flower that matches the blues on all of those. I have a ledger sheet here that is a tuck spot. I believe this was one of the elements, but now I'm not sure. It's a receipt. Receipts and guest checks came up several times. So I don't know if this was one of the elements or if I just had it out. A messy thread with a little brad stamped on tickets and journaling space on the back. Tucks right in there. And then there's an extra little tuck spot here where you can do some hidden journaling, or you can just tuck a little card in there. And it's held closed by this little collage that a friend sent to me, and I used it just as is. It was perfect. Thank you. I think it was Laura that sent that. Here we have it's kind of a half page, journaling page, and it is holding another one of the elements, the Mystery Mayhem mini challenges. We had to have a guest check with fussy cut image, messy thread, stenciling, and homemade washi. I believe that was all on one. And then on the back, I have more of that fabric softener, that dyed fabric softener that my friend made me. And it opens up, and you've got a journaling spot right there. And then that tucks right into this little page here. And I left that open because sometimes you just need it to be open to allow for some overhang. At least I need some. Here's an empty pocket. I'm not sure why it's empty. I don't know if I'll put anything in it. This thing is so fat and fluffy already. And here is the last page. This is the edging that I cut off of the placemat. And then I have that last little bit of that mystery, whatever it was, and a petal pebble right there in the corner. And then here is the back, and here we find the tassel. And I believe this tassel was one of the first things I drew. If not the first, very close. I love this button. It's the only one I have like that. So when it goes away, I won't see it again except in my video. This ruffle is from the curtain fabric. I love the way the edge is frayed on it. I think it's just delightful. And so that is my Granny's Garden journal. That's what I'm calling it, Granny's Garden. I just like looking at it. I loved thinking about my grandparents as I was making it. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, any requests, feel free to ask in the comments below. Be sure to hit subscribe and the notification bell so that you'll know whenever I get a new video made, and you won't miss out on any of the fun, even when it's mayhem. Thank you so much for joining me today. And remember, be kind, always.